The Supreme Sign by Said Nursi, Part 12, Second Chapter, Concerning Proofs of the Divine Unity. Then that restless traveler addressed his heart and said, "The fact that the people of faith, and particularly those affiliated with the Sufi order, are constantly repeating the words, 'No God but He,' and recalling and proclaiming God's unity, is an indication that the affirmation of God's unity comprises many degrees. Such affirmation is, moreover, a most enjoyable, most valuable, and most exalted sacred duty, instinctive function, and act of worship. Let us then, in order to attain a further degree, open the door of another stopping place in this abode of instruction. For the true affirmation of God's unity we seek is not some imaginary species of knowledge. It is rather an affirmation that in terms of logic is deemed the opposite of imagination, that is far more valuable than cognition based on imagination, that is the result of proof, that is designated a knowledge. The true affirmation of God's unity is a judgment, a confirmation, an assent, and acceptance that can find its sustainer present with all things, that sees in all things a path leading to its Creator, and does not regard anything as an obstacle to His presence. For otherwise, it would always be necessary to tear and cast aside the veil of the cosmos in order to find its sustainer. Onward, then, said the traveler to himself as he knocked at the door of God's sublimity and grandeur. He entered the stopping place of God's deeds and workings, the world of creation and origination, and there he saw that 5 comprehensive truths were prevailing over the entire cosmos and offering self-evident proof of the divine unity. The first truth, that of grandeur and sublimity. Since this truth is explained with different proofs in the second station of the second ray and various other places in the risale-i, we restrict ourselves here to the following. The being that creates and then administers at a single time and in a single fashion the stars that are thousands of years distant from each other, that creates at a single time and in a single form the countless members of the same species of flower, distributed over the east and the west, the north and south of the globe, that administers, nurtures, quickens, distinguishes, and adorns more than 200,000 different types of plants and species of animals in 5 or 6 weeks, with the utmost regularity and equilibrium, without any confusion, defect, or error, in order to provide every spring on the face of the earth more than 100,000 specimens of the supreme resurrection, and thus prove before man's eyes a remarkable event, now belonging to the past in the realm of the unseen, namely, the creation of the heavens and the earth in 6 days, periods. As indicated in the verse, It is who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Quran 57:4. The being that causes the earth to revolve, as evidenced in the verse. He merges night with day and day with night. Quran 3:27. And turns the night into the page on which the events of the day are written. This same being knows and administers according to his own will, all at the same time, the most secret and obscure thoughts that occur to men's hearts. Since each of the aforementioned acts is in reality one act, it follows that their glorious doer is a unique and powerful being, enjoying such grandeur and sublimity that nowhere, in nothing, in no way, does it leave the slightest possibility for the acceptance of partnership. On the contrary, it uproots all such possibility. Since such sublime power and grandeur exist, and since that grandeur is at the very apex of perfection and comprehends everything, it is certainly in no way possible to permit or allow any attribution of partners to that unique and powerful being, for so doing would ascribe impotence or need to that power, fault to that grandeur, defect to that perfection, and impose restriction on that comprehensiveness. No sound intellect could deem this possible. The assignment of partners to God is then by virtue of the offense it causes to God's grandeur, the dignity of His glory and His sublimity, so grave a crime that the Quran of miraculous exposition decrees with an earnest threat. God does not pardon the assignment to him of a partner. He pardons whatever is lesser than that. Quran 4:48. The second truth, the absoluteness, the comprehensiveness and appearance and infinite form of the dominical deeds seen at work in the cosmos. It is only God's wisdom and will that limits and restricts those deeds, as well as the inherent capacities of the objects and places in which they manifest themselves. Stray chance, dumb nature, blind force, unconscious causality, and the elements that without restriction are scattered in every direction, none of these can have any part in the most balanced, wise, perspicacious, life-giving, orderly, and firm deeds of the Creator. They are used rather by the command, will, and power of the glorious Doer as an apparent veil to conceal His power. 3 out of innumerable examples. We will set forth 3 from among the numerous subtle points that relate to the 3 deeds indicated in 3 continuous verses in Surah Al-Nahl, the chapter the Bee in the Quran. The first, your sustainer, your Lord, inspired in the bee that it should seek a dwelling place in the mountains. Quran 1668. The bee is, with respect to its disposition and function, such a miracle of God's power that a whole chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Nahl, has been named after it. For to inscribe in the minute head of that little honey machine a complete program for the fulfillment of its important task, to place in its diminutive stomach the most delicious of foods and to ripen it there, to place in its sting poison capable of destroying and killing animate beings without causing any harm to its own body or the member in question, to do all this without the utmost care and knowledge, with exceeding wisdom and purposiveness, partakes of a perfect orderliness and equilibrium, and hence unconscious, disorderly, disequilibrated nature and accident could never interfere or participate in any of this. The appearance and comprehensiveness of this divine craft, this dominical deed, which is miraculous in 3 separate respects, in the countless bees that are found scattered over the earth, with the same wisdom, the same care, the same symmetry, at the same time, and in the same fashion. This is a self-evident proof of God's unity. The second verse, there is for you a lesson in cattle. From what is within their bodies, between excretions and blood, we produce for your drink milk, pure and agreeable to those who drink it. Quran 1666. This verse is a decree overflowing with useful instruction. To place in the nipples of cows, camels, goats, and sheep, as well as human mothers, in the midst of blood and excrement, but without being polluted by them, a substance the exact opposite, pure, clean, pleasant, nutritive, and white milk, and to inspire in their hearts tenderness toward their young that is still more pleasant, sweeter, and more valuable than milk. This requires such a degree of mercy, wisdom, knowledge, power, will, and care that it cannot in any way be the work of turbulent chance, of the tangled elements, or of blind forces. The manifestation, workings, and comprehensiveness of so miraculous a dominical art and so wise a divine deed all over the face of the globe and in the countless hearts and breasts of innumerable mothers of hundreds of thousands of species, in the same instant, the same fashion, with the same wisdom and the same care. This, too, constitutes a self-evident proof of God's unity. The third verse, "From the fruits of the date palm and the vine you take sugar and find nourishment. Verily, therein is a sign for a people possessing intelligence." Quran 1667. This verse invites our attention to the date and to grapes, saying, "For those of intelligence, there is great proof, argument, and evidence of the divine unity in these two fruits. These two fruits yield nurture and sustenance, fresh and dry fruit, and give rise to most delicious forms of food. Yet the trees that bear them stand in waterless sand and dry soil, and are thus miracles of power and wonders of wisdom. They are each of them like a factory producing sweet sugar, a machine manufacturing honey-like syrup, a work of art created with perfect order and sensitive balance, wisdom and care. Hence, anyone with a grain of intelligence will say on contemplating them, the one who made them in this fashion may very well be the creator of the whole cosmos. For in front of our eyes, each vine branch the thickness of a finger will hold 20 bunches of grapes, and each bunch will in turn contain hundreds of sugary grapes, each like a little pump emitting syrup. To clothe the surface of each grape with a fine, delicate, thin, and colorful protection, to place in its delicate and soft heart seeds, with their hard shells, which are like its retentive faculty, program, and the story of its life. To manufacture in its stomach a sweetmeat like the halva, dessert of paradise, a honey like the water of Kauthar. To create an infinite number of such grapes over the face of the entire earth with the same care and wisdom and wonderful art, and at the same time and in the same fashion. This proves in self-evident fashion that the one who fulfills these tasks is the creator of the whole cosmos, and this deed, requiring as it does infinite power and limitless wisdom, can be only his deed. Yes, blind and stray, disorderly and unconscious, aimless, aggressive, and anarchic forces, nature and causality, cannot have anything to do with this most sensitive balance, this most skillful art, this most wise scheme. They cannot even stretch out their hands toward it. It falls to them only to be employed through the dominical command as passive objects, as curtain holders. Just like the 3 points proving divine unity contained in the 3 truths indicated in the 3 verses, the countless manifestations and workings of infinite dominical deeds attest unanimously the unity of a single one of unity, the all-glorious one.